This
Uh,
conference will now be recorded.
Thanks, Cynthia. I don't believe we have any members of the public with us this evening, so I guess we'll skip over public comment. And we don't have a quorum for the minutes, so we'll move right into our discussion items. The first one is one that Lane handled drafting for us since our last meeting, and it's our development criteria guidelines. So Lane, I don't know if you want to say a couple words about the guidelines and how you kind of edited them after our last conversation.
Sure. I tried to take notes at the last meeting. People were throwing out a lot of ideas. I think I got most of them, but I think the basic thing was that our last iteration of these were called criteria, which made it sound like, you know, some number or all of them had to be present. And what I thought based on our recent experiences is it might be more helpful if we had a set of guidelines, but they're really things for people to think about, because you know, everyone may like a particular project, but they may also like it for different reasons. So that's just sort of the brief introduction. I think I can't remember, did the marked copy of this also get circulated along with the clean copy? So you could see what the changes were from the prior one. Yeah. So, you know, the one thing I was trying to find and I did not have a lot of success with was I wanted to sort of flesh out the consistent with Mansfield Tomorrow goals. I would still like to do that. But it's in there, but I think it would be helpful if we sort of enumerated what those were, or at least decided which ones, you know, which ones were the most important ones to consider. But that's it really.
I had a chance to review this and it seemed like it hit the points that we discussed to the best of my recollection. But if anyone else, Shaku or Anthony, have any thoughts, or Tony, about things that we should tweak or add or anything, that would be a great time to throw those out there.
It looks okay to me, and I support maybe we should also look at the Mansfield Tomorrow goals, because right now I have a few in mind, but I don't really know all of them. So we can maybe pick the ones. I'm sure there are many goals in the Mansfield Tomorrow goals. We can pick the ones among them that relate to our function as Economic Development Commission. That may be a good idea, but I think the guidelines, the change to guidelines is a good one. And I think it included most of what we highlighted at the last meeting.
Perfect. Okay. So Lane, do you want to do that Mansfield Tomorrow goals piece and then bring it back, or do you want to do something with this as it is? Or
no, why don't I do that? I think, I don't know if, Madam Mayor.
Oh, you don't have to be so deferential, I assure you. There was a whole section on economic development. Am I right, Cynthia? Has this committee looked at that section recently?
Not recently, but just as a reminder, and maybe for Anthony, since he's new, is that when we put together the work plan way back when, we used a lot of what was in the economic development section in Mansfield Tomorrow. So a refresher is probably not a bad idea, because we kind of restructured our work plan around the subcommittees. So so I can kind of pull the old document, but also look at this. I mean, there is a kind of a pull out on guiding economic development in Mansfield, which are goals. It's not, you know, I think the development, you know, what the piece that Lane is working on is more for the commission in terms of, is it comfortable sending a letter or speaking out in front of a project? So it's a little different than the goals in here, but I think it would be good to do a refresher of this chapter and really check in on kind of where we are with some of these things.
Okay. So it sounds like Cynthia
I
and I
have a
can work on that.
feeling. I have a feeling the Mansfield Tomorrow goals, as they relate to economic development, will probably include some of the things we have mentioned here. But I think it's good to check, and I think we can hold on until we get a feedback on that before approving this.
Great. Okay. So Cynthia, maybe you can coordinate with Lane between now and our next one, and we'll get that added in, and we can finalize these at our next meeting, maybe.
Yes, I can do that.
Good.
Or we can do that.
Great. All righty. So that takes care of that item. Next, we have a referral. We went like years without any referrals, and now we seem to get a new referral with every monthly meeting. So a new referral from PZC for amendments related to the manufacture and sale of alcohol. And as I was reading through it, it almost sounded like what Tony and I went up to the legislature to be proponents of. Is this that same?
Yes.
Awesome. So Cynthia, do you want to walk us through it, or Tony, or?
Sure, whichever you prefer. Do you want me to do it, Tony, or?
Well, I haven't looked at what's on in the agenda for yet. So why don't you start, and I'll add anything that you missed.
I'm gonna basically take from Linda's always excellent memos. So, you know, she gave a little bit of background. So I think what everyone may recall is that municipalities did not have the ability to make decisions on the type of alcohol permits that a community could do. So without a very involved process. So this summer, through the efforts of Representative Haddad, the Connecticut General Assembly amended the statutes to eliminate this petition and referendum requirement for the sale of alcohol and decisions relating to the type of alcohol permits that a community can have. So it is now in the hands of the local legislative body, which is, of course, the town council. So on August 9th, the council held a public hearing. It waived its I guess time period, Tony, if I'm not using the right words, and approved adding authorized permits for the sale of alcohol for patio, extension of use and/or additional consumer bar, our farmers market sales permit, and manufacturer permit for wine, cider, and mead, which I meant to look up to find out what that is, and I forgot. So,
It's like fermented honey.
oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So
kind of gross, actually.
Well, you may want to delete that from anyway. So that was sort of the council track, and now there's the Planning and Zoning Commission track. So that will be the effort to amend the regulations. And so really what this does is add these pieces to brew pubs and farm wineries, which are already on the list. And the public hearing is scheduled for September 20th on this piece. And so, you know, Linda, as Steve noted, she referred this to several committees. I talked to Jennifer Kaufman today, and the Agriculture Committee is looking at this next week. So I think they're looking for comments and / support, I guess.
Let me add something. The statute has a very long list of potential permits, and the reason these three were chosen was because there are applicants for these three in town. So the reason for working on these immediately is that if they are added to the allowed uses, these three will actually be implemented. Now, there are two different issues here. One of them is ordinances and the other is regulations. The council has control over ordinances, and these three have been approved as changes to our ordinances. In addition, there are also changes to the regulations, which Planning and Zoning has control over, and I gather they are including a more inclusive list of potential potential uses, even though our ordinances would not allow the permits to be granted for some of those uses. So the council is going to be setting up a subcommittee whose job it is to look at all of the possible permitted uses and see which ones we want to add to the ordinances. So there may be some things there that sound like a really good idea, which we haven't added yet. We don't want to be in the position solely of reacting to individual businesses. I mean, you want to do something on a policy basis, not just because there's a person out there who wants a favor. So we agreed that these are all good and they were adopted. So now there are amendments that would expand these uses, but some of these will have to come back to the council for further amendments as ordinance amendments.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Yeah, is the restriction on alcohol use, is it based on religion? And a follow-up to that question is, these decisions or these proposals, will they lead to increased revenue for Mansfield, increase in employment, increase in enjoyment of life, which will encourage more people to come and live in Mansfield? I just want to establish the basis on which we have to make an input into this.
Well, I can speak for the council on that. There are a number of businesses that we thought would really enhance downtown or other parts of the community. And people talked about having a brew pub at on the square from the time it was first dreamed of, I think. There's also some real interest in pursuing winemaking as part of our agricultural economy. So there are real interests there too. So from a council's perspective, it's both a business and a community and building and a cultural thing. So we see it as popular in all ways. Its history is, of course, goes back to the period of prohibition from the 1920s and 1930s, when sale of alcohol was prohibited. And then when that constitutional amendment was repealed, the repeal gave control of alcohol back to the states. And what Connecticut did was give it back to the towns, sort of. When I first came to Mansfield in '65, it was a dry town. That is, you had to go out of town to buy your bottle of wine or beer. You couldn't get it at a restaurant. And then very slowly, amendments were made so that liquor stores were allowed in town, but not within 500 feet of a church or school. And also restaurants were allowed to serve wine and beer and alcohol. So we went from being a dry town to what Ben Shaken calls a damp town. But we still had this rule on the state level that you had to get 1,500 signatures to make any change in your ordinances at all regarding liquor, and that's a very heavy lift for a town the size of Mansfield.
Tony, what would the argument against this be? Like, why would this not be a good idea?
Who needs more alcohol? I really think that's the primary argument against it. But of course, you know, the town and planning and zoning is also thinking now about recreational marijuana sales. So this feels like a really old-fashioned, you know, this feels like we should be talking about this in hoop skirts or something. It feels very out of date when you're thinking that we're really going to be considering sale of recreational marijuana over the next year.
Yeah, I agree. And we have to move with the times. People should be able to buy alcohol if they want to drink it. What we can for people who want to maintain order is to tell people don't drink too much, but I think people should be able to buy alcohol if they want to drink alcohol. I think also that will widen the economy. I think it should be good for increased revenue for Mansfield. Hopefully, I don't know about employment, but it is possible that these businesses that will do that will hire more people. And I don't drink myself, but I know that for most people, drinking alcohol is a form of enjoyment of life. And it should be good, even for our students, the students in the colleges and universities around in Mansfield, around Mansfield. These places will attract them, and when more people come in, they spend more money. The more money they spend, the more they consume, the better the economic situation. That's what I think. I'm looking at it from an economic perspective, not from a religious perspective or anything.
Yeah, I would agree with Shako. I think, and to the point, some of the guidelines we were just discussing earlier, I think it's, it definitely helps with small businesses. A lot of these are small business endeavors as opposed to, giant corporations. I think it's would certainly aid in business retention. It would be interesting to see if we could kind of pair this with the Taste of Mansfield, where you could have, locally distilled spirits or locally brewed beers sold here in Mansfield. It'd be kind of a neat farm to table kind of a thing, an extension of that. So I'm definitely in support of this. Lane or Anthony, anything to add or any comments or?
No, I'm in support as well.
We are one shy of a quorum, so we can't make a motion to write a letter in support of this evening. We'll have to wait till our next meeting. But I think the general consensus I'm hearing here is we're in support of it, and we'll work on a letter once we get a quorum and a vote.
I think that's right.
All right, so that will take us, anything else regarding this referral? All right. The next thing on our agenda is an update on implementation and position marketing development plan. So I think this is Cynthia's purview, so we'll turn it over to her for that.
Thanks, Steve. Sorry for the disruption. Our cleaner came in. I'm not usually here at this hour, I guess. So, yeah, so I've been updating the commission over the last couple of months, but I thought I'd do a little bit more detailed, and want to thank Mary and Kathleen in our office and Margaret in the town manager's office for all their work on, and several other people, but on the sort of implementing the town's marketing and branding plan. So there's a couple of key projects, and so I just want to update you on that. So we've talked about the community calendar for some time, the comprehensive calendar that would list all the different events going on in town. The subcommittee did pick a group, Simple View, and there is an agreement, and that's been reviewed by Jamie Russell, the director of IT. Our hope is to get that into the town financial system and start that project. There was a kickoff meeting that I was not at with Simple View a couple of weeks ago. So it's more in the administrative piece right now. So hopefully we can get moving on that. I'm hoping by September, October. So that's an exciting piece. Do you want me to just kind of go through and get questions afterwards, Steve, or?
That's fine. Yeah, that works.
Okay. So the gateway signage, this is the project that yeah, just little things keep happening. But again, this is the signage to gateway signs, one at Route 6 and 195, and then one at 195 and 32. So we're working with ArtFX, a Connecticut company that's done some work in Mansfield previously. So the latest is that their vendor sent them 2 sets of stone that were the same, that were not the set for this project that they're doing. So they have to go back and get the stone. It took a while to even find the stone because of COVID and everything else. So they're still working on the actual sign, but the signs are going to sit in this sort of stone base. So I said, is this going to happen this year? So, you know, hopefully by October. So fingers crossed on that one. And I've been working with Derek Delay at the town on that project and some other folks. So then the other one is related to signage. So I drafted, with the help of our signage team, a request for proposals for a comprehensive sign program, design of a sign program. So throughout the entire town, to have some consistency with our signage. I'll look at wayfinding signage, clear directional signage. So I got comments back from our team, and then also got some comments from, pretty minor comments from Ryan Aylesworth, the town manager, and Linda Painter, the director of planning and development. So it's in my court right now, and I hope to get it into Public Works, admin Sherry Bazansky, and she'll put it in the town RFP format. So hoping to get that out by early September. And what I should say, just to back up, I think everybody knows this, but just to make sure, Anthony, so all of this funding is in the town budget or budgets over the last couple of years. So this is not new money. Explore Our Town Guide. Mary's been a wonderful help, and we've done quite a bit of distribution. We got 5,000 copies, and we've distributed about 2,400. If you'll recall, this was kind of a 2-year at least shelf life. So we've gotten several realtors, not just in Mansfield, but throughout the region. Mary actually just was in Manchester this week and delivered three more realtors. We have gotten several of the HR departments as far as universities. So University of Hartford, Eastern, Quinebaug Community College, UConn, also the HR, of course, at the town, at the schools, Wyndham Hospital. So, major employers in town, trying to hit them. I also, about a month and a half ago, delivered several to the Welcome Center, the 84 Welcome Center in Willington. And Chambers of Commerce, we've done Tolland and the Northeastern Chamber, still waiting to hear back from Wyndham. And the other piece that we're working on right now with some help from Margaret and definitely Mary is reaching out to manufacturers in Eastern Connecticut, a couple in Rhode Island, and the Sturbridge area, to have information about Mansfield as a place to live for their potential or current employees. So I think, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, you've gotten a pretty positive response in your phone calls. I think there's a couple of people that thought they were too far away, but most people look forward to getting that. We've got a cover letter from Ryan that'll go with the brochures. So we've got a little bit more work to do on that in terms of some additional outreach, but that's been going well. And again, many thanks to Mary. The other piece that we haven't talked a lot about, but I met with Margaret and Kathleen yesterday, is a rat card. And this would be geared more toward visitors to come here. And that was in kind of our internal staff plan. So this would be something that we would have at all the welcome centers. So I think there's 5 of them. And also the Hartford Convention Center, and we're still kind of trying to look at a couple of other places. So that one is just, we've got kind of a draft outline, and Margaret and Kathleen kind of are taking the lead on that one. And then we're also looking at one of the things to help us with is kind of media placement. We have a lot of great ideas about where the best places are to, put information about Mansfield. So whether it's as far as the Boston Globe or Yankee Magazine, these are very expensive. So we're looking to hire a media consultant for kind of a small consulting project to help us look at media placement. I think I've mentioned in the past that NBC Connecticut has also reached out to us to do something similar to what they did with Wyndham. So that's kind of an overview. There's a lot of smaller little things going on, but those are kind of the big projects that the EDC had in its budget request to the council, and many that come out of the plan that was done with Dorner McCallum back a couple of years ago. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments.
A couple questions for you. The gateway sign placement of those two signs, can you tell us where those are going to be? I know you said 32 and 195.
Yeah, so if you're coming from like my house in Ellington, so you're coming down 195 and then you're at 32, it'll be on the left side. I'm sorry, I'm not really great with north, south, east, west.
Yep, no, I got you.
So it'll be there. There are some guy wires there. So Derek DeLine, Kathleen, and Sean Vasington need to kind of look at that space. And the space will work. It's just, they need to work a little bit on that. And then the other one will be kind of across from the Eastbrook Mall on the other side, near Champaign.
Gotcha. Yep, great.
Or not closer to, I'm sorry, closer to really the Staples Plaza.
Okay.
What will these signs say?
They're going to say Mansfield. So we're just kind of leaving it pretty simple, Tony, at this point. But using the, for lack of a better word, the font and the colors, and using the whole communications platform that was developed.
Nice big signs, so you know you've arrived in Mansfield instead of little tiny brown ones.
I like the brown ones.
We'll agree to disagree. The only thing that I was thinking about as we were talking about all these great things that our town has to offer, have we done any PR around the school getting built? Now that we've broken ground and the school is imminent, it just makes our town that much more of a great place to live. Are we promoting this anywhere? I don't know if that's the EDC thing, because it's not so much business, although you could loosely correlate it to businesses, but certainly from a town perspective, it's a huge feather in our cap.
Yeah,
Did I see something about there being like a live video feed? Like you can, there's some cameras you can tap into and watch it being built. That's cool.
Two or three nights a week, my kids and I tap into that before bed to see what went on, and we read the book Building a New School, and it's been a lot of fun for us.
Awesome.
But I think getting it out so more people know that it's happening would be beneficial for our town.
It's on the front page of the town's website, the webcam.
It is in the Live and Learn section in Explore Our Town. It's in the first paragraph, actually the second sentence. And I know Margaret is very keyed into that. So I think, anything that we're doing going forward will definitely mention this school. But I'll make a note on that, Steve, to make sure we have that top of mind.
Yeah, pretty impressive project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question just related to the signage thing, and it's really more out of curiosity than anything. But is Yukon subject to our signage regulations?
No.
Or can they pretty much do whatever they want on their land? Got it.
Not only that, but they hire their own sign people. I gather that Nike did the designs for their logos and their signs and their fonts, and they've been struggling to get uniformity as well. But they're not about to consider Mansfield.
I wouldn't expect to.
we do have, Sean Vasington, who's with the, I forget what the official name is of that department, Tony, but, Sean's a landscape architect, so he's on kind of our signage team. So we have, his expertise and, definitely some coordination. What that exactly ends up being, I don't know, but.
All right, any other questions for Cynthia on our update here? All right.
Has there been any interest from any kind of business or development company for exploring the opportunity zone or any of that stuff?
I got Tony and so we have put Mansfield in a couple of publications, you may recall, over the last 2 years, I think the commission. And one of them, I think, is the site selector group. So I got a couple of leads before my last time being out of the office, and I emailed back the magazine people, and I never heard from them because when I opened it, there was no contact, no phone number, no nothing. It's hard to tell whether these are kind of people just throwing it out there and contacting people without sort of real interest or real serious sense of purpose. So, again, we still, it's sort of calmed down a bit, but, most of the stuff that Linda and I were getting was multifamily housing. So I think there's some more work that I can do in that area, and this is part of it. We're also looking at, I had a meeting with Mary and Kathleen today about the website in terms of the business page. So we're going to try to beef that up too and use that as another platform to promote Mansfield.
All right. So we'll move on to member updates. I think a few of us were on the call earlier when Cynthia let us know that Bill Oakson has resigned. So we're down another member. So we really need to brainstorm some new members that we can add to our commission. So Tony had the idea of going to the commission on commissions and asking them to find some people. I've certainly been reaching out to the names that we've already brainstormed, but if everybody can really kind of put your thinking cap on, and maybe if everybody can try to bring one name of somebody they think might be beneficial addition to our committee to our next meeting, that would be really helpful because we're getting down to where it'll be hard to make a quorum if we lose more people. So hopefully we can get, I'd like to see us get, at least 3 more by the end of the year. That I think is an achievable goal, but we need to do some more brainstorming on ideas. So if anyone has any names, please feel free to reach out to Cynthia or I, or you can bring them up now, and then we'll keep on trying to see whom else we can come up. Any other member updates? Then I guess we'll move on to staff updates. Do we have anything for this, Cynthia?
I don't have nothing in addition to what I went over.
Okay. Business openings and closings. I saw that, I think it used to be Pub 32 has a new sign out front, but I didn't catch the name of the sign as I was going by.
The Poorhouse, P-O-U-R.
There you go. So that'll be one that looks like it'll be opening soon. It doesn't look like it's open just yet.
No.
Has anyone else noticed any other openings or closings in town?
There's the Fresh Fork place.
I'm sorry, Blaine, I interrupted. What?
I think we were saying the same thing. Fresh Fork just opened like in the last couple of weeks. So there's smoothies back in Mansfield again.
Yeah, Tony and I both eat there.
Yeah, I recommend it highly.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had a couple, Steve, some of which I think you all discussed, but it looks like and I was like you, Steve, I was going by too quickly, but I believe is it a new hairdresser at Four Corners in that little plaza?
Oh, okay.
Nature's, not Nature's Medicines,
Yeah.
Natural Health Food.
Mhm.
And then, I don't remember if I've talked to this group or if it was a partnership board, but Brooklyn Dumplings is coming into the Farmhouse Crepe space downtown. And that is, some of you may or may not know, Matt Ruscani, who originally owned Wingstop and Moe's and Mooyah. So this is another venture of his. So it is a franchise. I think there's one well, I know there's one in Brooklyn, I believe, and then I think there's one either coming or is already open in Hoboken, New Jersey. So I don't know the time frame. I know that they a couple weeks ago cleared out what was in there from Farmhouse.
Great. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And then Anthony, I think since the last meeting, Gliston got approved, right? Gliston Diamonds. I don't know if
Yeah. Sorry, I had the mic on mute there. Yeah, Glisten Diamonds. They're going in, or Glisten Services. They're going in September 1st, but they're not going to have like any signage or anything per their choice.
What do they do?
Great question. From my understanding, it's a who's backing it is I think some wealthy individuals out of California, but the main driver of it is a professor at UConn who's developing a product that cleans jewelry, essentially. So they're using the space as office / laboratory space.
Great. All right. Well, that's nice to have more openings and closings for a change. So very, very positive. Do we have a housing update, Cynthia? Anything from Linda or?
Yeah, I can. I basically went on in a little conversation with Jennifer Kaufman since Linda's out, but I went on the website with the story map. So the Haven at Four Corners housing, proposed housing development, the public hearing is on August 30th. So that's the second night, I think, of public hearing. I think you all discussed at the last meeting, the amendment to the zoning regs to establish, I'm going off of housing now. The amendment to the zoning regs to establish standards for drive-through facilities as accessory to restaurants, that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's only in the Plan Business 1 zone. And it's really the language that was in the approval, it's very focused on auto-centric zoned areas. And then Tony had mentioned about the cannabis establishments. So the PZC imposed a 9-month moratorium on any development of any of those type of facilities to allow them time to develop regulations. So I think unless anybody else has any updates, I think that's like it's a pretty good overview.
Great.
Or Steve, do you want me to talk at all about UConn?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we discussed what they did at the last one, but if you have an update, that'd be great.
Well, I think the biggest news is that Greg Haddad has introduced legislation, which won't go to public hearing until February, but legislation which would require UConn to go through the normal processes to acquire land. They got an exemption as part of the UConn 2000, which was why they were able to slip that land purchase through the board without anybody knowing about it. And we will be finding ways to support that legislation. It has to be a committee proposal, and the chair of the committee is May Flexer, and so we have both her support and the support of her co-chair, Representative Fox. So this is ongoing, and of course we have had ongoing negotiations with the university about the Freedom of Information lawsuit we filed. The town manager and I had a lengthy conversation with Havens. What really concerns us is the potential for the owner to throw up their hands and take some kind of a bargain out of somebody, out of some kind of offer that would just get them out of this lengthy, exceptionally lengthy process. And of course, that's exactly what we're afraid of, that the university's aggressive actions will deter any development at Four Corners. Had I spoken to the board before our last meeting?
No, I don't think you had.
I think so.
You'd
Okay,
spoken, you spoke with the president.
Okay, well, I made a good 20-minute presentation to the Board of Trustees explaining what had happened and its impact on the town, and ultimately asking them to stay out of the town's business, basically, but most importantly, to remove their appeal of inland wetlands decisions on the Havens property and others. And we haven't had a response yet. We have had a response to our FOI request, asking us to narrow our request, but we're very hesitant to do that at this point.
I support your hesitancy, Tony. All right. Well, thank you all very much. We'll keep our fingers crossed that Haven continues forward and we find out some of this information once this FOI request goes through. Is there anything we need to do with the calendar, Cynthia, or that's just in there just as a reminder of future dates and topics?
Yeah, I think it's, yes, it's in there just as a reminder. We'll do kind of a yearly, Mary and I'll work on the yearly schedule. I know, October is kind of when we sort of look at our, not reorganize, look at officers, things like that. So
yeah.
We'll work on that the next couple of days or weeks.
And then we had a bunch of articles, obviously the one about UConn, there was the one about Agbotic, which was approved, but I guess is now being opposed by a bunch of the neighbors. So I think they've filed an appeal of the decision. And then there was another article in there, about the ECSU professor and his tomatoes, which was kind of a cool article. So not something I would have thought I would have read about, but who would have thought about growing tomatoes in space? So thank you, Cynthia, for adding those in there. Did anybody have anything they wanted to mention about any of that? Or
Space tomatoes are good.
yeah. Anything else for the good of the order?
Steve, I would just say that the town is switching to Zoom meetings, which I think you know from our meeting last night. But so our next meeting will probably be on Zoom once I don't know if I've ever set one up, but I think it's pretty easy. I've certainly attended several.
They're not difficult at all.
Sounds good.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I moved.
All right.
Second.
I think Shaq made the motion and Lane seconded it. Thank you all very much. You can vote in the affirmative by waving goodbye. So have a great evening.
Stay
Thank you all very much.
safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay safe, everyone.
You too.
Have a good night.